In this episode of Flea Market Rescue, we're going to take these bundt pans that I got from the thrift store and turn them into beautiful pumpkins. And we might as well make a sign letting everyone know that pumpkins are sold right here. Well, will you just look at this little ditty? Bring in the clowns. We're totally giving this a makeover. And I'm going to even show you the new fall line that will be out today, including this really cool birdcage garland. So if you're ready for this week's episode, then let's dive in. Before we get started though, I just want to welcome you if you're new here to Flea Market Rescue. My name's Kelly Sherry. I do a lot of home decor makeovers and furniture flips. If you're interested in learning how to do some of this, make sure to subscribe to my channel and ring the bell. That way you'll get notified every time I post a new video. Now this first project was inspired by one of the girls in my Facebook group. Her name's Rebecca Jenslinger, and she does some really good work. These were made out of oil cans and jello molds. I thought it was just the neatest thing. So I thought you guys would be really interested in this, so I decided I would put my own little spin on this using a bundt cake pan. If you get a chance, check Rebecca out on Facebook under the name Northland Primitives. She has some really cool stuff. Thank you, Rebecca, for sharing your project and for allowing me to share it with all our friends on YouTube. So I recently went shopping with my mom and sister at the thrift store, and I came across these molds. Today we're going to turn them into pumpkins with this spray paint that I got from Home Depot. I ended up getting this large one for $2.99. This one here was half off, so I got that for $1.50, and this one I ended up paying $3.99. So we're using that Rust-Oleum Rustic Orange. Ooh, that's pretty bright. But you know what? That's going to give us a good base coat. So we're just going to spray all of these and then let that dry. Well, I'm thinking these look good. We're going to flip them over once they're dry. Okay, so these are dry to the touch. I'm going to turn them over and paint the inside too, because we want to make sure everything looks good. Our pumpkins are completely dry. They really look nice, but you know what? They're just too bright. And not only that, they're so shiny. So we're gonna kind of like make them a little bit more muted. What I'm gonna do first is I just have some acrylic paint by Decor Americana, and we're just gonna use this here. This is burnt orange. We're gonna just dab some of that on there just to tone these down. They're just way too shiny and they're just way too bright. They look like maybe construction. I poured a little of that paint out, and we're just gonna kind of brush that on there. You might be wondering, well, why'd you spray paint it then? See, I feel that if you spray paint on metal, it just stays better. This probably would scratch off, where that, I don't have to worry about it. So again, we're just gonna kind of tone these down a little. And now we're just going to take some of this Voodoo Gel Stain in the Tobacco Road color. It's made by Dixie Belle, and we're just going to kind of squirt some of that on there. Then we're going to take a brush and just kind of streak it in there. And let me just show you what that does. That just leaves some nice lines in there. And it breaks it up. It's not such a solid color anymore. I'm gonna do the same thing on these. I'm just gonna use some of that burnt orange. Now I think you can tell the difference if you compare this one to that one. These look like a construction worker would be wearing them, where that looks more, you know, just, I don't know, muted, and it just has a more richer look. These, not so much. This one's starting to dry. All right, now that these are dry, I'm gonna dip my stencil brush into a little black paint here. And what we're gonna do is we are gonna flick some black splatters onto this. You know, it works really good with a toothbrush too. If you have an old toothbrush, you could do that with that too. I wetted the brush because the paint was kind of thick, and I think we'll get better splatters that way. Oh yeah. So if the paint is not going on as good as you'd like, then just simply add a little water to it and you'll get good speckles. Well, ooh la la, that is looking good. Now we're going to cut some stems out of some branches I found in the backyard. From this angle, it looks kind of scary, but really my hand was far away. And we're going to do the same thing for the other two stems. All right, now that these are dry and we cut all our stems, we're going to glue that in with some epoxy Gorilla Glue. So we're going to use this. It's a 2-part epoxy. You squeeze equal parts out and you mix it all up and it's ready. So I'm just going to squeeze out 2 equal parts. And then I have a toothpick here, and I'm just going to mix the 2 parts together. I'm going to put the glue all around the bottom of the stick, and then I'm also going to put it around the edge of the bottom of the bundt pan. And we'll just put our stick in there. Now we're going to end up taking some reindeer moss and we're going to pack it all around the stem. That way it'll hold the stem straight up because these bundt pans have really large holes. Before we do that though, let's finish gluing the stems on these other 2. Now we're just going to take a little of this moss, we're going to tuck it around this pumpkin, around there a little bit. We're going to put some hot glue in here, and then we're going to really pack that reindeer moss around the stem. You can get this reindeer moss at the dollar store. That's where I got this. This will also ensure that the stick will stay directly in the middle. And I think this looks pretty good. Now we're going to repeat the same process on the 2 small ones. Now I have a piece of jute, and I'm just going to wrap that around this pumpkin here. And I'm going to do the same with the little ones here. I think the natural jute just is a good balance to the greenery and the wood and that pumpkin color. It just adds a little something. These are looking so good. And we actually could stop right here, but you know me, I have to go a little over the top. Now I know I've said this before, but I really think hang tags give your item a finished look. So we're gonna use these hang tags that are new in my Etsy store. I have these hang tags, which are available in my Etsy store, by the way. They come with these are optional. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna paint these black, and then we're gonna put some dictionary paper that I had coffee stained on there. And then once we're done, we'll paint this black and we'll put that and glue it right on there. So I think that's gonna look really cool. All right, now that I'm covered in paint, we're just gonna let that dry. All right, these are completely dry now. We're gonna flip them over because these are actually gonna be the backs of them. This is gonna be the front. We don't need to paint these because, again, we're using some of this coffee stained paper that I had did for another project. So we're gonna use a little Mod Podge and we're gonna Mod Podge the paper on there. So just put a little Mod Podge on there. And then we'll place our paper right on top here. Just want to rub that down, and then we'll just sand it off, the excess, as soon as that dries a little. Okay, we're going to do that with all 3 of them that we need for the pumpkins. We're just going to let that dry up just a few minutes and then we'll sand the excess paper off. All right, I am just going to start to sand like this. And as you notice, that paper just comes right off. And it also might give it a little bit of a torn effect too, which is kind of cool. I actually learned this from the viewers. A couple of them wrote in and said, just use sandpaper. And you know what? You were right. Sometimes you can find the best tips from people. All right, so now we have all of these that have this coffee dye dictionary paper on there. And again, we need to make a little hole right there so that we can get some jute through there. I have these really pointy little scissors and we're just gonna kind of go like that. Just gonna trim around there. All right, so I have these little pumpkin decals. You could use a stamp on here, you could use a stencil, you could do whatever you want. I just happen to have these pumpkin decals and I thought it would look cute if I put the word pumpkin on there. I think that's pretty cute. So I'm going to put pumpkin on the rest of these here, and then we're just going to glue that down and tie them to our pumpkins. All right, so now I have the pumpkin decal on all of these, and let's just glue this on real quick. I'm going to use a little of this Titebond, and we're just going to put a little on each of these. So I'm just using a toothpick and I am putting a little glue around these. Put them right in the center here. Then we'll press down. All right, now that we have these all done here, let's just add them to our pumpkins. I think I'm just gonna use the same jute and just kind of put that through. I'm just gonna make one more knot on here. Doesn't that look awesome? All right, so let's do that on the small ones too. I think these came out absolutely awesome. I'm so proud of them, and I think they're going to be a great seller. And while we're talking about pumpkins, I just have to show you another project I came across in our Facebook group. This one was by Bonnie Wirtz. She said she saw this project on YouTube. It's where you take old books and make them into pumpkins by painting them, adding a stem, and some moss. Bonnie, I think you nailed this, and I really love how your project came out. And while we're on the theme of pumpkins, I have one more girl from our Facebook group that I really want to share her work with you. Her name is Tammy Sherman, and she made these wonderful pumpkins. I love the prints that she used, and the stems are actually made out of polymer clay. Now, if that wasn't good enough, what I'm about to show you is just going to blow you away. Isn't this farmhouse setting just gorgeous? This is not Tammy's home. This is a miniature that she has created. Look at this. This is absolutely breathtaking. Each piece is handcrafted by her. Tammy's story is incredible. She was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and that's how she got into miniatures. This kind of helped her get her mind off of it. Who would have known that would evolve into this? Tammy, you have great talent, and I'm so glad that I can show the world your work. To see more of Tammy's work, you can go on Instagram under the name Pepper Studios Miniatures, with underscores between each word. I'll leave a link in the description. Again, her work is just stunning. With all the pumpkins that we're going to be selling this fall, I thought this next project was perfect. A long time ago, I came across this sign at the thrift store. It says, "You are beautiful." It looks like an eye chart. I kind of wanted to just change that, so I sprayed it black. Of course, I forgot to film that, but just know that I've had this sign forever. So I thought today is going to be the perfect day to use that. I made this large stencil so that we could stencil this design onto our sign. Okay, so I have my pumpkin stencil here, and we are just gonna stencil this on to this board here. This used to be an old sign from the thrift store. I painted it black, and now we're gonna go ahead and stencil something on there. All right, you guys, I have this all taped down, and we are just going to stencil that on there. So I'm using a little white paint. Less is more. Because if you use too much paint, then it's going to seep underneath. You can always go back in. I just switched stencil brushes because that other one was just a little too hard. This one is the one I normally work with, and I think it just covers better because it's a little softer, where the other one was so darn stiff. Yeah, this is working out much better. Now, just to let you know, you could do the pumpkin orange, the stem brown. You could do anything you want. I'm just doing it like a classic white though. Now, this board had a lot of grooves, so I went in with more paint, which I shouldn't have done, but I did it. And because I didn't take my own advice and use so much paint, when I pulled up the stencil, some of it looked a little blotchy. All right, so there it is. It looks pretty good. I do have a few couple splotches, but I'm just gonna touch them up, and I think it's gonna be awesome. But hey, why make extra work for yourself? Like I said, less is more. So I ended up touching up those little spots, And then I took this garland and this black crow that I got from the thrift store and displayed that along the top. I also put our pumpkins in front, and in the end, I think it came out great. If you want to make your own pumpkin sign, this stencil will be available in my Etsy shop. Now this next project, you gotta check this out. This reminds me of that song, Bring in the Clowns. I bought this little ditty at the thrift store for $3.99. Now you know the first thing I did was pull out the sander. We were getting rid of that at all cost. It was like it was never there, and we're starting fresh. I'm just going to take a Clorox wipe, and I'm going to just wipe all the dust off of this and get it clean. We're going to start out by using some of this Voodoo gel stain in Tobacco Road by Dixie Belle. I think that's going to be a really nice color underneath. This is just a little too white. You know, it looks a little too brand new. This is gonna age it a little, and then we're gonna paint it. If you remember back, I used that Tobacco Road antiquing gel on that barbecued pig that we did a few weeks back. And now we're gonna use it on this. This is just giving it a rich tone, and it's looking as if it's aged. Taking a brush and just kind of getting underneath this here. Some of the areas are hard to get to, so you might need to do that. Normally, you probably would put this like on top of a buffet, you know, the tabletop of a buffet, and it comes out beautiful. Now I have a whole bunch of different there's different slats, and there's a band that goes around, so it's hard to get in there, but if you were to use this on a buffet, it would just glide on. Okay, so as you can see, it looks so much more aged. I'm gonna keep using the brush and just kind of getting into all the nooks and crannies that I couldn't get into. But as you can see, it has like a really nice rich tone, and that's perfect for our base. Now that we have it stained up, we're going to use some of my Behr Paint and Primer in one, and it's called Pure White. Not completely cover it, we're just going to kind of hit it in certain areas. This looks old, aged, and chalky. I'm sorry to say that I'm not missing that clown at all. Yeah, I like this much better. Now we're just gonna let that dry. All right, so now that this is dry, we're just gonna take some sandpaper and we're gonna sand it a little. All right, so I sanded this. I think it looks really good. It looks old. And now all we need to do is just add a little decoration to it. I bought these at the thrift store, and we're just gonna add them in there, and this is gonna give it the perfect pop of color. I think this was a huge transformation. It looks old, it looks vintage, and I love it. Now my Glowforge has been getting a little bit of a workout. I've been creating a lot of fall things that I think you're really gonna like, including this little ghost. Is he just not too stinking cute? So I have those available, as well as a few other things that I've been working on. I'll show you in a minute, but this project I think you're gonna love. These are like a dimensional bird and bird cage. They're 2 parts, and when you put them together and when they're finished, they look awesome as a garland. So we're going to do this quick little project, and these will be available in my Etsy store for you to do your own DIY. All right, so I'm going to paint these bird cages. We'll paint the first layer, the actual cage. We'll put these to the side. I really love these. I think they're so cool. Okay, so we have all those, just the top layer. And what I'm going to use is, I'm going to use this, Chicago Gray. It's by Annie Sloan. Now you can use any kind of gray. You don't have to get Annie Sloan. It's just what I have and what I want to use. I'll mix that up real good there. I'm going to use a little bigger brush because I don't want to have to paint with such a little brush. Okay, so we're just going to, forgot to take off the, make sure all the paper's off these. Okay, so I'm just going to start by painting it. All right, these look good to me. I'm just gonna let them dry. These are all dry. We're just gonna move these to the side now. And we're gonna work on the second part, which are all the crows. So we're gonna paint this all black except for this stick. We're gonna paint that brown. But let's do that black real quick. You can use any kind of black. All right, so we're gonna let those dry and then we'll paint the twig brown. Now these are completely dry and we're gonna paint the twig brown. So I just have some of this, you know, you can get any kind of paint, any brown paint, whatever looks good. I think this one will probably look the best, so we'll use that. We're just gonna paint the branch here. Now we're gonna take a little black wax and we're gonna brush that onto these cages just to give it a little more dimension. Now I just wanna show you how that makes it look, you know, like an old cage that's been distressed. You do it a little darker. Give some shadowing towards the bottom. So I think these look really awesome. So we went from like a flat color into having some rich tones in there and just really making these look distressed. Now I want to do the same thing over the stick because it's just too plain of a color. All right, you guys, now it's time to start assembling these. So we're gonna take a bird in one of the cages. We're gonna glue these all together like that. Okay, and I'm just using some Type Bond glue here. We're basically just gluing the 2 parts together. We want to line them up, press them together, and I think this looks good. I'm just going to finish the rest of these up. Just going to let those dry, and then we're going to go string those along. All right, so these are all glued together. They're nice and glued. One thing I want to do real quick, I want to add a little gray right here, because I don't, and on the back, just to finish it off. I'm just going to touch up the sides just a little bit now that they're together. I'm painting the sides as well as the back just to give it a little more of a finished look. So I have this jute that I got from Walmart. We're just going to take a couple pieces and tie it around these here. And we're going to repeat the same thing with the remaining 4. Now we're going to take these here, and I have a long piece of jute, and we're just going to weave that through. Make sure you alternate, like you have one crow that's actually crowing. This one is just like with his head looking back. So make sure you kind of alternate those. Crow looking back, crow crowing. Crow looking back, crow crowing. You want to space these out. We're going to put a loop on the back here. It's going to help us hang this. Okay, so we have a loop. And we're going to space these out. You can even measure what you want to put it on, whether it's a fireplace or a piece of furniture. And then you're going to tie this part, and that'll be your other loop that it can hang from. Now let's see this hung up. Isn't this awesome garland? These are just some of the projects that you can make with a Glowforge. If you're looking to buy a Glowforge, I have a referral code that will save you up to $500 on one. I'll leave a link in the description for you. And for those of you who have no plans on getting a Glowforge, don't worry, I have everything in my Etsy store that I think you're really gonna like. So let's talk about what we do have here. We have this awesome garland that I just showed you that will be in my Etsy store. It'll also come with the jute, and it's a do-it-yourself project. We have the wooden hang tags that I showed you. They're perfect for any project. We have this large pumpkin sold here stencil for you. It would be great for fall, and again, you can do your pumpkin in any kind of color along with the stem. And I do want to let you know that I am working on some more stencils for you. It's in the works. We have the ghost cutouts, which would be perfect for like a boo sign. I have some really cool bats that you can add to your Halloween decor. You can drill a little hole in them and then hang them with some wire from something. I have these awesome crows that you can add to a sign and maybe put beware. And how cute are these? Look at these skulls. And Kelly Hall, you asked for kitty cats? Look who came through. So that's what I have so far for you. I'm still working on some more fall stuff, and I'll have more available very shortly. Now to kick off fall, I want to offer you 15% off everything in my Etsy store. That'll be from August 25th to September 1st using the coupon code FALLKICKOFF15. I'll leave a link in the description for you. Just a reminder, Springfield is just 3 weeks away. If you haven't let me know that you're coming, if you could do that in the comments by saying attending, I'd appreciate it. I'm trying to work on a few little gifts for you guys. Don't forget, those of you who are attending, we're meeting at the Big Ice Cream Cone on September 17th at 2 o'clock. You can't miss it. Well, that's it for this episode of Flea Market Rescue. If you like this episode and you want to see more episodes, make sure to subscribe to my channel and ring the bell. I'm Kelly Sherry, and this has been Flea Market Rescue.